Alright guys, back again. This is SETHIKUS BOZA, Black Earth Productions, here with the most recent installment that I am very excited about. Who I have coming on with me, I've known for quite a while. He and I met about 6 or 7 years ago, and we are akin to everything to do with magic. We are akin to the Brotherhoods and everything that's unfolding in context to that. With this, I would like to introduce you, my friend Nikolai Jones, to Black Earth Productions. How's it going, man?
Seth, thank you for having me on your channel. Once again, we've known one another for a very long time, and we've observed what has happened over the past, several years. And I think that a lot is unfolding, and a lot is taking place, and a lot of people are going through, activation. And I think that it's going to be a very powerful discussion tonight to get into these subjects and just blow the doors wide open and share what I have come to understand at this time, and also, ask you some questions regarding all of this, and just, getting into some powerful conversations tonight, man.
Yes, I expect this segment to be very powerful. Share a little bit about how we actually met. I mean, I could get into it, man. I could really dive deep and share my side of the story, but, on your end of things, how was it that we did come together and start communicating?
I was about 16 years old, man, and I started to, kind of introduce myself to what's actually going on in the world, like what is actually happening on a government level. And then that later led me to, researching the occult. I had come across your channel, and that changed everything for me, not knowing anything about the occult and coming into this with a new perspective, understanding the power of knowing how to navigate our minds, knowing how to have a foundation upon our path before we get into the higher sciences. And Seth, something that you always spoke about was coming back to the heart center, coming back to your personal connection. That's something that stood out to me. Getting back on topic, this was many years ago, man. I came across a magical order, and you were also seeing where things were headed with this order and what was going on, and just introducing what you have learned upon the path. And the information that you presented was fairly unique. Like I haven't ever heard it from anyone else. And so I think the rest is history, man. After that, a lot of things took place, and a lot of, painful times as well, a lot of brutal initiations. But I'm here now, and very grateful to have, upon your channel, because that was foundation to work with for everything that was to come. So it was really powerful, man. I think after that, I'd asked you a few questions, and we started to get into some pretty deep, topics, and, you shared a lot with me and gave me a lot of insight. Now we're in 2018, and it's a powerful moment. Right now, I'm practicing, numerous different sciences, mainly the mystic's path and also the magician's path, which I like to work together. I like to be able to gain more control of my mind and my thoughts and my emotions through the art of meditation, chanting, energy work, balancing both hemispheres of the brain, getting into the metaphysical sciences of planetary high magic, and investigating what is happening with the celestial realms, what is happening with higher angelic consciousness. And that has been one of the most transformational things. The thing about being a mystic is really becoming the master of yourself, of your mind, and that is so fucking important, right? And then getting into the arts of magic, that is about influencing also internal and external change in your reality, but through accessing specific vibrations and frequencies and powers to make that happen. It's also a reminder of what we're capable of doing as well, because we are a spirit ourselves, right? We can navigate the astral, we can influence events. It is about direction of energy, and there's many things that could be said with that. So many things have happened over the years, joining, magical orders, and then going downhill for a little time, Yeah,
it's a lot to get into, man. And I remember when things flipped back in 2012 to this specific order and everything that has happened with it. I ended up stepping away, knowing the fucking difference. Had been in practice with many of the things that were being presented for years. But when quarantine was lifted in February of 2012, man, that is when everything flipped on its fucking head. a lot of people got pulled into these lower astral grid works doing invocations, specifically putting them in the position to be ridden upon, violating the ancient protocol. And the level of attacks that were unleashed were absolutely off the goddamn fucking charts, man. But going further into what I want to dive into with you, the path of the mystic and the path of the magician. Both are necessary in context to what I personally practice and what I've been able to develop as far as the mystery school goes with the blue flame healing arts and occult science. It's definitely setting things in trajectory to be able to wield magic in a way that I don't think the world has ever fucking seen.
Right.
There's a lot more to this that I want to get into with you is the system orbital de magia vetrium, which translates simply the magic of the ancients. And I have the Orbital and the Black Earth Library, among many, many other grimoires. And there's a lot of really fucking powerful shit in here, man. A few of the things I want to get into with you in context are the 9 tomes of magic and the 7 septenaries of the aphorisms.
Yes.
If you want to dive in, man, and share a little bit of what is actually going on to get started.
Absolutely. To what the Orbital of Magic is, through my own experience, through working with this grimoire and studying it, I've come to understand that it is a grimoire that supports, once again, the path of the mystic and the path of the magician, creating a union and a strong mind via connection with the divine force, tapping into that and understanding that you and it, when you're in connection, you become a force to be reckoned with as a magician. And then once that is established and you gain control of your mind, then you're introduced to the art of magic and dealing with the celestials and then doing different great work with them. That's a bit of an introduction. There's just so much that I could say, but the 9 tomes, the first book, it's called Isagog. It speaks upon the principles of magic. The Orbital, in my perspective, is a grimoire that any aspiring magician or magician needs to study, not only for the practical aspect, but also understanding the principles of magic. Our minds need to be strong because you need to discern whether you're talking with an angelic or some other entity has taken its place. And the first tome is Isagog. So again, speaks on the principles of magic. But before I get into all the tomes, nobody really knows what happened to the rest of the 8 books. Different people have, different perspectives. And
well, I can tell you exactly where they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're within.
Exactly.
And that's the real secret.
This is very interesting that you tell me that. When I work with the spirit Bethor, he's the Olympic angel of Jupiter, he said to me, Nikolai, all you would need is the Orbital to get into the higher sciences, because first, it is to go within, it is to establish connection, and then learn things from nature, from celestial nature, and the rest will come to you. And the Orbital speaks heavily upon how every magician needs to understand what his divine calling is in magic. You can't just, jump from grimoire to grimoire and try to master everything. There's a certain destiny that in place with every individual. And something that I've noticed with you, Seth, is you speak about people understanding their personal mechanics, both on a physical and spiritual level, how their own consciousness works. So knowing thyself is absolutely important in this. And I'm glad that this is something that you teach heavily, because in the arts of magic, you need to know yourself. You need to know what you stand for. You need to know how your mind operates. And then there's more unfolded. So to list the books, the tomes, right?
Yeah, I want to get into the tomes and go over them actually with you now from my perception with them, because going through this again before we spoke, it is universal, eternal teaching. It's all here in the 9 tomes. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, 9 being the spindle of the energy force, 9 being Yggdrasil, getting into the ancient tradition of my ancestors. It's all in alignment. It's all in alignment with what I feel that you are working with in context to the angelic grid works. Now, I talk about grid works of consciousness. I talk about the lower and the upper astral, and even grid works of consciousness that are beyond. This is a very, very old thing that we have both been involved in for a very, very long time, not just this life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain codes that are awakening now that are meant to take what's happening with our kin to the next level. And these magicians of the past, dark sorcerers, dark magicians, it has definitely shown me the errors. It's shown me the flaws and the things that are actually keeping people back from what we're talking about, man. You speak of invocation. Now, the word invocation and evocation are two different things. When I was younger, when I was about your age, the first time you and I spoke, I was into the dark arts. I was into it up to my fucking eyeballs, man. It came with a very severe fucking price, and I almost lost my fucking life. And if it was not for the higher force, I would not be where I'm at right now, because I was snapped back, having to go through specific initiations, which really kicked off in the year 2000, like I speak about a lot on my channel. This shit's not a fucking joke. Looking at the 9 tomes right now, this is protocol teaching as well. The first kind of magic, which you mentioned, the SETHIKUS, basically is a book of the institutions of magic, all of the institutions, going all the way back, to which 49 aphorisms comprehend the most foundational teaching of the entire art of science and magic. This is fucking foundation.
Exactly, and this is something that stood out to me when I had, crossed upon this grimoire, is that what it taught is something that I already knew within. You know how it is, man. Like, you need that confirmation. You need something to back it up, because a lot of magicians, you end up contemplating, are they in protocol? When you come back to yourself, that vortex, you're guided. I want to share aphorism 44. The passage from an ordinary life to a magical life is no different from the passage from sleep to being fully awake. Indeed, what happens in the ordinary life of ignorant and unknowing people also happens to the magi, but with their knowledge and consent. The magus understands what his mind thinks, ponders, decides, deliberates, and defines what to do regarding himself, and can observe when his thoughts come from a separate entity manipulating him, and will proceed to test which type of entity that it might be. But the person who is unaware of magic is driven back and forth, whether arising from his own mind or impressed by some attending essence or entity. And he doesn't know how to avert to the counsel of his enemies or guard against the traps. And we see this so much in the brotherhood and in the communities that...
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the Isagog is the history of the brotherhoods, man.
Yes.
It's the history of our kin. And if we don't know the history, then we get caught. Because the dark ones are controlling both ends of that equation. Polarization, going back to the betrayals that took place among the wisdom councils, all goes back to this, man. Because on the highest level, it all goes back to the brotherhoods. And that's the difference with the work that you are doing, the work that I am doing, and other people out there as well. Getting into the second kind of magic, microcosm magic. It's macro and micro, as above, so below. Learning how to cause effect with the art and science of magic by the spirit of the individual, their eternal essence, right?
Yes.
And learning how to tap into the personal genius that was given to them at birth. This is all in alignment with what is unfolding now. And knowing how spiritual wisdom becomes the cause for this, and how to achieve this as above, so below. And I've said it often, until humanity recognizes that the heavens above are within us, we're not going to evolve. We're not going to remember how to navigate. The third kind of magic is Olympic magic.
Yes.
In short, you could say is everything to do with planetary high magic.
Absolutely. It has to do with specific human consciousness that is integrated with planetary consciousness when we're talking about the Olympic spirits. And we'll go deeper into their nature, but it really has to do with balancing consciousness and correcting deficiencies and personal defects that we have on a planetary spectrum when it comes to our personal consciousness. We're dealing with vibrations here. As we know, a shift of vibration is a shift of consciousness. And therefore, when we're working with specific planetary spheres in ritual, cause and effect occurs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People want to jump to the tome 9 or 8 without even mastering the first 2.
I want to get into these with you, man, because these are very, very important, actually, to everything, man.
Mhm.
So continue with what you were saying.
The fourth tome is the magic of Hesiod and Homer, the work of spirits that are not hostile to the human race. So that's very interesting to me. The positive spirits that are not hostile to the human race. What's interesting is when we go to the seventh tome, how to have power over hostile spirits. That is absolutely necessary because we need to know how to deal with hostile spirits as a magician.
Yeah.
But once again, without the first two tomes, there's no coming. There's no coming to the seventh.
No, you're not even going to come into the third, man.
Right. So,
and it's interesting if people have the disposition to be a magician, pay attention to why you're drawn to certain things and why.
Mm-hmm. Intention is everything. Again, it has to do with the mind. It has to do with being objective, being self-aware. Are you being triggered, emotionally? Is it certain trauma that is causing you to go somewhere? When I started on the path of magic, man, as you know, you were a huge introduction to establishing that foundation, and you spoke about so many of these things, but later down the track, I ended up going into other things and
yeah, man, you went off the fucking deep end, dude.
That was 3 years of hell.
Well, share a little bit of what actually happened, man. People need to know this shit.
There came a point in my life where I had everything stripped and other things that had went down, and I was really at a really low place in my life, and there was a magic order, which you're aware of, that presented information and rituals to affect reality. And since I had everything stripped, I thought there'd be nothing to lose. But I did lose my sanity. And, I ended up ignorantly walking into the realm of spirits, the Goetia, and that really fucked me up for a while and resulted in physical injury, resulted in a lot of shit happening. And I want people to understand that there is indeed a difference between black and white magic.
Unless people do the real work, they're not going to be aware of their unconscious. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be aware of what's actually driving their intention. Because they reach that place, man. It's like, well, I got nothing to fucking lose. Fuck it. This is the main reason why I see a lot of people want to get into magic. I do not do ritual unless I fucking have to. Otherwise, I'm taking action. Because even the actions we take are magic. It's the energy. It's the intention, right?
Right.
I remember when things started happening, I even threw some warnings at you, man. I was like, don't fucking do it. But you already got hooked in on. And the reason I was being the way that I was is because I experienced that on my journey. And is why I'm still driving it in context, taking it back to the isagoge and then the magic of the macro and microcosm, man.
Something that I want to bring up for the audience, to any of you guys that are thinking about getting into magic and you're looking at different orders, I want you to be aware of two things, and this is something that I've learned. A lot of black lodges, they work through invoking emotion in you, whether through something that's happened to you or something to get pissed off at, and then they bring you into their solutions. Let me explain. When they give you energy systems to work, specifically to their order, to their spirits, you're vibrationally aligning with their agenda magically. Then your consciousness shifts and you're in their control. Everything has to do with energy. Once they have your energy, once they put you at the right vibratory rate, that's it. They have you. And the only way out is, as you said, Seth, coming back into that vortex, coming back to Creator. Because even with angels, when you're in connection with Creator, you will know whether the angel is telling you the truth or not. You will know whether what is being shown to you is truthful. The isagoge is foundational. For any aspiring magician out there, understand that everything in it is important. A lot of us, when we start on the spiritual path and we get introduced to many different topics, it becomes a form of entertainment, but then it becomes actual alchemical work. And that's where the real shit actually begins to happen. And you need to be prepared and you need to be strong in yourself. And there's trial and error with that as well. Like, we have to be burnt to learn. And I went through hell those 2-3 years where I was really hooked in.
Yeah, I remember, man. It was fucking hooked in pretty fucking deep there for a second.
Yeah. Coming back to a reflection of an event where, I bought, thousands of dollars of magical books and grimoires, some that I'd never even read because it was out of the crave for more power. Luckily, I picked up the Arbitel and started reading it. You know how the truth is, man. When it's there, you feel it and you know it. Simply reading these aphorisms energetically align your mind into being balanced, into being centered, into being grounded, because truth can never be denied. It's there and it cuts through all the lies. When I began, I trusted in what was being promoted, okay? And when I did that, I thought, okay, I'm going to try these rituals. And it hooks you in because you are getting results. You are manifesting things that you want. But there's that price that comes with it. And what I've learned from all of this is that there are different nature of spirits. When we look at spirits, when we look at entities, when your consciousness merges with them, there's a revelation of that spirit that gets merged with you. There's this vibrational correspondence where you become like it. So the spirits that you're around with, they're going to start to affect you on multiple different levels, from a glandular level, from a mental level, from an emotional level.
Yeah.
And this all has to do, again, with the principle of vibrational correspondence. There's so many things that I could get into, but the major thing to take back from all of this is trust and use your discernment. Fucking trust yourself. Don't allow people to convince you otherwise. There's just so many lies that I've seen that are embedded in some of these magical teachings, because especially with a lot of the stuff that's being promoted, again, it plays on your emotions, it plays on your mind, and that state of mind brings you into their hands. It's as simple as that. But if you feel that something is off and you need to take a step back, come back stronger then, and then you're going to become sharper and sharper and sharper. The one thing that black magicians don't want people to know is they don't want you to have control over your mind and your spirit. That's one thing that I can say.
Bringing truth, it's interesting. It goes back to the history, man. It goes back to what's there within the blood, because this war among the brotherhoods, it's been going on for eons, man. And I'm not just talking about some like small time fucking bullshit, man.
Right.
I'm talking about the real dark orders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the real when it comes to our kin. This is what I know. You're a part of it. Other people are a part of it as well. And the more we drive these things, and the more we reveal these things, there are individuals that want to know. There are individuals that this is meant for. The 9 tomes, this is something that I've been working towards for a very long time. And then how to work with that in context of the third kind of magic. That's what I want to get into next, the 7 planetary angelics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go through these names: and Eratron, Bathor, Feleg, Ak, Hagith, Ophiel, and Hul. This is not the same as the Archangel Neophyte Necromission Anunnaki hybrid from Alpha and Omega Centauri, which I outlined when I spoke at For Your Mind 5. There's something very unique going on with these specific archetypes of consciousness in context to the planetary spheres. These are the 7 Olympics. Again, going back to planetary consciousness, until people recognize the fact that the heavens above are within us. Specifically here to the third kind of magic. This has everything to do with what I talk about in context to what is happening on the solar spiral. Now, getting into the angelic grid works specifically, Raziel is one of my patrons. And Raziel is directly working in alignment with the 7 Olympics themselves. The things that were revealed to me by Raziel took my path work to a level that I can't even fully put into words. Raziel is the keeper of the mysteries and showed me a path work that had been lost. Raziel showed me something that needed to be reinstated again. And this is everything that I've been focused on in context to grid works of consciousness that are even beyond what we're talking about. The deeper I went into being stripped right on back down to my true core essence, that is when all of these things really started to be revealed to me on a whole other level. Certain synchronicities and events and things that took place started to come into alignment that has led me up to the present moment So when it comes to the angelic grid works, I'm not placating to the Archangel, Neophyte, Necromission, Anunnaki hybrid. And there's a serious situation going on in context to a very cheap counterfeit that a lot of these quote-unquote fallen are all a part of. And they play both sides of the spectrum in context to polarization on a multidimensional level, on a planetary level, on a galactic level, a universal level. So going back into this now.
Let's get into it. According to the Arbiter, the 7 Olympic spirits are governors of fate. They are the ones that inhabit the stars of the firmament. And their duty given by Creator is to decide fate, to administer accidents of fate.
That's a lot like the Norns in the Nordic tradition, man.
Right, right.
They're weaving the fates of gods and men.
Right. It is said that they cannot bring harm upon you when you're in connection with Creator. There's no harm that can really happen to you. And a magus of Creator can bind, the lower forces to be in control of oneself. They're like a focused intent of a specific angel who stands before them. In Freda Chisan's book, Gateways Through Light and Shadow, what he reveals through investigation with them, and this is something that I've come to believe as well, is that Olympic spirits were actually 7 chosen humans, and that their essence and consciousness had transcended. They understand the human mind very, very well, very well. And they are very involved in human affairs with what is actually happening. However, working with them, they're not like any of the other fallen spirits that I had worked with when I started in Magick. I've never had any backlash from them. That's all I can say. And in Magick, that is fucking amazing, because when you're going into all these old teachings with, working with demonic influences and especially the stuff that's being promoted, that will fuck up your life. But with them, I've never had that issue. So I believe they're here to correct certain planetary deficiencies when we work with them. However, I'd also like to mention that in the Pistis Sophia text explains that the human soul, the spirit, is beyond this world, beyond the 13 aeons, beyond the zodiac, beyond the planetary spheres and systems. We come from a time that is not limited by, Saturnian restriction in terms of our soul and where we're originally from. And that's a whole topic to get into. But the reason why I bring that in is because these 7 Olympic spirits seem to play, a rule of fate, right? So depending on the internal work that we go about, that will also determine on how effectively you can work with them. When I spoke to Bethor last, I said to him, could you teach me more about the Arbiter? And he said, no. What he said to me was, you have to come back to connection with the Creator, and then more is going to be unfolded to you. So even that Olympic, after so much work with it, actually ended up saying, no, I cannot teach you anymore. Now you have to do this. And a lot of them have always stressed the importance of just coming back to that connection, coming back to that power with Creator, because in that place is where force works through you, and then your work with Olympic spirits becomes really effective, really powerful, because the Olympic spirits are elevated. Once again, they understand the human mind very well.
And I think they also understand that they are not allowed to actually interfere.
Not with your personal progress. There's like
so, okay, can you say then that Bethor, he was pointing you back to yourself?
After a lot of work with him, yes, because I've done different operations with him, different rituals.
I really like Bethor. I like the symbolism of what he actually represents. He's the wise goat with the cups. All of these things people get into in context to the tomes. It's all connected, but because of the history, we've been working with fragments for fucking eons, right? I know the true benevolence that are in their positions understand this as well. This is something that Raziel has also shown me. Now, you're talking about connection to the higher force, Creator source. We're dealing with the positive and negative charge of the energy force itself. And going through the tomes, I was looking at the 9th kind of magic. This is the wisdom, which depends solely upon the power and connection with the higher force. This is prophetic magic. This is the magic of the seer. This is the magic of the seeress. This is the magic of the shaman.
What's interesting with the ninth tome is when you establish that and when you're practically doing it, when you work with Olympic spirits, that creative force guides them to give you specific vision.
Yeah.
And through that force, this science is so full of mysteries. But once again, I think that
the tomes here go back to the single digit code as well in context to the mathematics. And with the circle of the magician, this is 0, the fulcrum. It's the point in between the in-breath and out-breath. That's our connection. And there's no difference between 0 and 9. The ninth kind of magic here, which is making that connection to the higher force first, even before the Isagogue would even present itself. Because I know that this knowledge is veiled, and people that come into these sorts of things, they're going to be fucking tested, man. You're going to be put through the fire. You're going to be put through all sorts of trials to see if the higher force can trust you with it.
Right.
And it's going to trust that you are going to be in alignment. When people say magic, there are many, many, many systems out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just one grid work. It's not just one ritual. It's not just one, group of entities or spirits or whatever. There is so much going on, man. And
the key here is to discover what creator pulls you to when it comes to magic. Like, what are you here to actually wield and use and govern? And
that all goes back to blood codes. That all goes back to genetics. That also goes back to our cosmic Stargate connection to these other grid works that have not been bridged since the cataclysms took place. This is one of the goals I know is meant to happen, the wisdom councils coming back together again. And we're all coming at this from different angles, different backgrounds, different experiences. How do we bring these systems to a head where we create something that's never been created before, man, that even reaches beyond all of these old systems? There's viable, proper knowledge and a lot of things I've looked into. The Arbitol is one of them. The fifth kind of magic is Sibylline magic.
Yes.
The Isfalad Insignis Magia, to whom the whole orb of the earth is distributed, and is described the magical system of the Druids and the Galdr. This is the magic of wizards.
Yes. Here's something else that's very interesting. When we look at the 8th tome, okay, Hermetic Egyptian magic reveals gods of all kinds. The Arbitol briefly speaks about this, but this sentence alone has caught my eye. It speaks about how magic was corrupted in Egypt, and to me that's like, wow.
It goes back to the wars between Samaria and Egypt. I have fucking memory of this shit that has come to me.
It is that gnosis that's going to give you understanding of what divine magic is. And right now we have so much access, so much information, so much resources. But before they can become really functional and healthy, we need to, again, have a solid foundation to work with. And, before we jump to the next steps. So there's no shortcuts.
Right. And with the 8th kind of magic, Hermetic magic, Egyptian. Yeah. I work with specific archetypes when it comes to Kemetan magic. There's a lot of connections here in context being revealed that go back to how things work with the wisdom councils, all of these different navigation points along the path that aren't really talked about in a lot of circles out there, man. They're either working with one or another, so on and so forth. Here, I literally see all of it, what's revealed in context to the history of our kin.
Yes.
Now, the 5th kind of magic, Sibylline magic, that is very, very fucking real for me, man. So if you could touch upon what that is with what's been revealed to you.
For sure. This is very interesting to me, which, speaks on working with guardian spirits and also, the teachings of the Druids. That's very interesting to me. But what I'm going to say is this might be something that you're already presenting out there now.
Yeah, and I am. It all goes back to the Fae and what we term the Alfar. And the Alfar are the elves who are looking over at the edge of all creation, awaiting those that are meant to come into alignment. Okay, take it back to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. That's more of a modern day mythos in context to the Nordic tradition. And I am Alfar. And the Alfar know the power of the voice. This is Galdr. This is the magic of wizards. The magic to evoke forth vision. The organic, holistic encryption in context to nature and context to the cosmos and all the grid works of consciousness. Even take it back to abracadabra, we create what we speak.
Yeah. So
taking account, mastering our speech, especially when it comes to ritual, man, being able to channel our magic, which is emotion. Emotion is energy and motion. This is where we get our magic. And it's interesting what you mentioned earlier. They hook into people with the emotional body, man. And so if we're not, again, in control of our thought and emotion, then we're not going to be evoking what's actually there within our core essence. We're going to be evoking programming. We're going to be invoking spirits that are just waiting. And that's why all of this fuckery has been going on. And then there are people here anchoring those grid works of consciousness into the reality field. And as far as I'm concerned nowadays with the technology and the level of magic that's actually fucking out there, man, there are battles that take place between magicians, between lodges, between different fucking factions that still don't fucking get how we are all being played by the dark gods themselves.
It's all a divide and conquer game. Because of the access to information with different traditions, different orders, a lot of them are playing a competition instead of just getting better at their practice and their art. Then once they're under their energetic control, so to speak, agendas can go forward. The overall picture is again, being sovereign, being, in control of yourself, of your mind. And I always like to say that the power of the voice is one of the greatest powers of the magician. Once you speak, once you vibrate, chants, your consciousness rides in on that frequency, on that vibration, and your mind becomes open to that level of reality. And chanting is a very important part of my practice with the 7 vowels. And that is very natural to the human body through the glands. And I find that has really helped, boost, psychic ability and so forth. If we were to symbolically represent the magician and the mystic is one with a heart, and the magician is one that can speak forth and manifest. So it's very interesting to me. We can look at this in many different ways.
I just keep thinking about Bathor. And it's interesting, Jupiter in context to expansion of consciousness, the power of the creative energy we have to manifest. The cups that Bathor has, no matter how big or small your cups are in reflection to the cups that he holds, there before us, within us. One of the things that Bathor showed me is that you want to always be coming out of overflow of the cup. It's able to pour into more cups.
Right.
Unless you're coming out of the overflow of your connection with the higher force, then your cup is getting fucking siphoned. And then it starts to crack and crumble, and then you're not connected to the wisdom of the goat.
Yeah. And something else that we can pinpoint is that if your own cup is empty, so to speak, if you're not taking care of your mind, your body, your diet, how can you give back to others? How can you fill the cup of others, right? So first, take care of yourself, take care of your sphere of influence, your energetics, your body, your mind, your sleep patterns, and observe that. And then once you're in full energy and full power, then you can give back to others, and then they can expand, and then there's like a ripple effect that happens. And symbolically, the 2 cups to me are almost like representative of Bathor giving you now using to expand your own consciousness as a magician. I've made talismans. I've worked with him directly every Thursday. And he's a king. He's about wisdom. He's about knowing how to govern your own faculties, knowing how to govern your mind. And his qualities are very, very interesting. He is said to make truthful answers be given by aerial spirits. And when we're dealing with aerial spirits, they can give truthful answers. And as a magician, that's so fucking important. You want to make sure that you're getting the right information. So he's an incredible ally. And
I have their talisman right next to me now.
Beautiful, beautiful.
You know, there are many systems that I'm connected to, and in truth, given over to my multidimensional genetic disposition. There's no grid work I cannot access because of who I am personally. Now, having interfaced with a lot of these angelics in the past, this is where I was at the time. Then when Raziel came to me and revealed to me what he did, that's when I started accessing more that was there within the codes within me. Like I was saying, this is not the only grid work of consciousness. Because of the cataclysms, that's when consciousness was fragmented. This is where I find a lot of people get compartmentalized or pulled into a hive mind where even the symbolism of the benevolence is being fucking used against us, man. And it is a question of whether or not you're in connection to the higher force. We here in Midgard, if we're not testing the spirits, if we're not testing these things, taking it back to protocol fucking teaching and making sure that what we're getting in reflection of the projection of our intention, you literally have to test the shit out of everything.
Exactly. And it goes back to the concept, as within, so without. If you're an unbalanced magician, the way that you're going to interact and deal with natural forces is going to be chaotic. And we're about dealing with nature in a way that brings life, you know, inspiration, and knowing how to deal with nature on many perspectives. It's a celestial realm, right? But also, you know, going out to nature in a forest and connect with the trees, with what's going on around you, and merging your consciousness to it to understand how it works. But also, once again, as within, so without. So being in a very healthy state of being to work with the forces of nature. And if you are to influence nature as a magician, you're doing it from a standpoint that is very powerful, potent to what is around you. You know, I think that's very important when you're doing magic. And there's many ways to go about doing magic. If you're working with chaotic forces to fix a goddamn relationship, you're going to have side effects, you're going to have issues. Once again, heal your own system. And
see, that in context is where chaos magic needs to fucking stay. It's with yourself, within yourself. Let's talk about the alchemical process, getting into the sixth type of magic here, Pythagorean magic. It talks about alchemy. See, when you go into the Athanor, you are stepping into the realm of absolute chaos and calcination and putrefaction. All of the detritus comes out of the smokestack, screaming from within you, trying to convince you that it is you. And this is a part of the process I don't think people really fucking understand. For the most part, people are not putting themselves in the position to be held accountable, man. There's a certain way you conduct yourself among the brotherhoods, also with the spirits. And if something comes into your field and is trying to fuck with you, it is your cosmic position to put it in its fucking place.
And that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with admitting, hey, you know what, I was wrong. This is trial and error. You know, when you can admit that, there's so much room for further growth, for expanding yourself, for getting to know more, for actually being able to, you know, have your cup out, so to speak, and allowing Jupiter to pour through your lessons and through just taking responsibility. Another thing that I want to touch is that you have to be sovereign. When you're dealing with entities,
absolutely, man.
Angelics, you respect them, they respect you. It's not about hierarchy. It's about respecting your natural position, you know, as a magician, as a mystic, them respecting you, you respect what they're doing, where they're at, and that's a healthy relationship because both forces, the magician and the angelic, stand upon the foundations. That is just so important, and you need to take control over your own life. One thing that is pathetic is when people worship entities or gods. Being inspired by their strength, by their stories, by their ability, sure, that's great. But take control of your own mind, your own destiny, and remember it's between you and the Creator. If I was depending on one angelic, that would be fucking ridiculous because each one of them have a certain position of influence upon our world. And as a magician, you know how to work with different spheres and different energies and how to indirect it. But once again, know thyself.
Exactly. And I think the ultimate goal for any magician is to come to the point of realizing that he is all of that in reflection. It just takes time to integrate and realize because of the fucking overlay. This war is fucking real. Now, getting into the sixth kind of magic, Pythagorean magic, which only acts with individuals to whom are given the knowledge of the arts and sciences of magic. Things like psychic ability, knowing medicine, okay? People that are healers. I am a level 1 Qigong practitioner. I can do energy healing. But when it comes to healing, what I want to do is actually teach people how to heal themselves. Not just mentally and emotionally in context to their psychology, but also energetically, getting into the science of the fulcrum, drawing the circle, the magician, making connection to the higher force, and learning how to communicate within yourself with yourself. A lot of people aren't even aware of the inner dialogue that's going on here. And then they want to run out and start invoking spirits. It's fucking dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous when you don't actually go through the true initiation. Mathematics is a part of this in context to the 6th kind of magic as well, Pythagorean magic. The alchemical process of transmutation and transfiguration. You're going to be fucking melted to nothing. You know what happens to a caterpillar within a cocoon? It's melted down and then it reforms into a goddamn fucking butterfly. Scientists still cannot figure out how this actually happens. So you want to talk about magic, things that are going on in nature, it's all around us, man. The way we win this war is by healing our systems.
That's right.
By removing any backdoor inroad in context to the emotional body, because that's where they're hooking in. You were saying that about the dark arts. And I saw that happen in ministry as well, man. Those motherfuckers in the pulpit, they're all a part of that fucking shit. And I'm talking about on the highest levels, man. All these churches, they're all being directed and guided by the dark priesthood, man. It's not just these black lodges. This is something that needs to be addressed, especially to the charismatic movement, because some of the most powerful dark sorcerers I've ever fucking seen out there are actually in those positions. And they got millions of people, man, millions of people all across the world hooked in to these lower astral grid works, man. They think it's God, or they think it's the Holy Spirit. In Study with the Clip-Off, the spirit of Astaroth comes in guise of the quote-unquote Holy Spirit. Exact same fashion. There's no return in context to Gebo, which is the law of equal energy exchange. And a lot of these giant crusades that people go to, man, I remember being there and seeing the energy literally lifting up. And you could feel it, man. You could feel the power, whatever the fuck was going on. And it wasn't always the same. If people want to argue if magic is real or not, it's fucking real. It's real. More real in a way that you cannot fully wrap your mind around unless you are actually in connection to the higher force.
Magic is a science, you know, it's a science. It's understanding the movements of the stars. A woman giving birth is magic in itself. When you think about the deeper metaphysical implications and symbology with that, these black magicians, or whatever you want to call them, there's a side effect. There's a parasitic consciousness that goes along with what they're tapped into and what they're trying to invoke. And when we know how to work with the flows of nature correctly, especially when we're in balance with our own selves, in our own minds and our own hearts, we become so much more potent and powerful in these sciences and in these arts. And once again, it comes back to the first tone.
Yeah.
You know? So,
yeah, and we always have to be checking our fucking foundation.
Right.
If your foundation ain't solid and you go into this, people, you're absolutely fucked if you think otherwise. Because both me and Nikolai have been there, done that shit. And speaking with Nikolai back in the day, I did mentor him for a period of time, and then he was off on his own journey. But you got to realize something about what's really fucking going on here. And it's waves of the higher force that are resounding through the lenses of the perception of the all. And if you hear that, and you are connected to that, then you are going to hear what the fuck he and I are saying here. If not, then it is for you to go consider. See, both he and I don't expect anyone just to take our word for it. Go find out for yourself. You can't even deal with your day-to-day life on a physical 5 sense level. You got to get a passion for these sorts of things. You got to get a passion for healing. You got to get a passion to know even beyond where we're at right now having this conversation, coming out of the overflow of a cup of Bathor in context. And see, that's where I'm always trying to come at things from. Because in truth, my friend, I'm 100 steps ahead of anything I present in public. When it comes to my personal path work, it's just taking time for things to unfold. Addressing this right now, I think, is very, very vital to the progression of what is happening among the brotherhoods, bringing things back to the original. I've always talked about this with you.
Something that I'd like to mention, and this is something that you might, have further answers to. In Aphorisms 24, the Arbiter says the greatest secrets are just 7 in number. The second secret is to be able to prolong life as long as you please, namely bodily and physical life. Our earliest ancestors had this secret.
Yes, it's to do with age regression. I'm going to be 40 years old next year. I don't even look close to 40.
You're doing well, man. You're doing well, sir.
Yeah. Now, the original humans did not die physically. The only reason we die physically is because we've been cut off, thrown into these cycles again and again and again, same feedback loops, same time cycles. We are here to catch up the soul cycles. In order to heal, going back to healing, we got to go into the history. We got to go into the blood. We got to go into this fucking trauma. We got to go through the alchemical process. But always knowing that connection with the higher force is priority above all things, because a lot of people, they can start to try to do these things with their own limited cut off power. And you're right about what you said about the gods and the goddesses. They don't require our worship. They don't even require our sacrifice. All this shit about sacrifice and even human sacrifice, that was nothing to do with the original teaching, because these archetypes of consciousness are self-sustained in connection to eternity themselves.
It's how magic becomes corrupted. And what I think happened was really, the power structures actually made some fucking changes, and now we're going to use an image of worship. It's just a mess of things.
It was literally designed to play upon the real codes that are there within every race, tribe, and culture on the face of the fucking earth, man.
One of the highest secrets, number 7, is to be regenerated as the king of the lower world. To know the microcosm, to know how to govern yourself, your own mind, through this vortex, through this power with the Most High. That is interesting to me, to be regenerated as the king of the lower world. There's so many things to still be discovered with this grimoire, but it's going to take time. It's going to take remaining strong in your vocation. There's just so much here, so much here.
Yeah. What I want to touch upon first before we continue is the 7th kind of magic of Apollonius. It agrees with the Sibylline magic of the Druids and Galdr, like I was saying, along with the magic macro and microcosm. And it has power over the hostile spirits of mankind. Let's talk about this. I think both you and I are very tapped into this specific kind of magic.
To the viewers, if you just take a look at what you've presented on your channel, there's plenty on hyperdimensional warfare and how these parasites work, and they have been documented in every single text. There's a malevolent force, there's evil or hostile entities that are out there, so knowing how to deal with them is important. You've presented a lot over the years with that.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we've been on the front lines. What we are really doing, we're not just in one place. And the war is fucking real. Now, people want to be in the position to really have an effect of what's happening here in the reality field. We need more people. And this isn't any sort of fucking agenda, some kind of hive mind fucking bullshit. This is all meant to bring people back in trajectory, learning how to make connection with their true core essence. Because you're not going to make connection to the higher force otherwise. Going through the true initiation. That's what I've been focused on in context of the blue flame, healing arts, and occult science. It's healing arts first, then occult science. The initiation that's unfolding right now, we have over 600 students, man.
Wow.
Worldwide. That are all doing what we're talking about here, man. The higher occult sciences, that's a lot to get into. And it does get into magic that's even beyond some of the things that are laid out here in the orbital. But it all goes back to this fucking foundation, because there is a specific way that we are all meant to navigate these grid works of consciousness. And until we breach the frequency fence and the grid works of the Ouroboros, we're going to continue to be thrown back into the same time cycles that we've been in for fucking eons. Unless this happens on a certain fucking level, and it doesn't even need to be thousands upon thousands of people. It just needs to be people that, whether it happens in 100 years or 500 fucking years, what we are doing is important to the progression of everything. And those to whom it's meant, you know, it's going to resonate with them. But it all goes back to becoming the master of yourself, mastering this existence and mastering our destiny, and mastering why you actually incarnated.
Yeah. And once again, as you said, mastering your destiny, and that's greatly important, because every individual needs to discover why they're here, and whether they're a healer or a magician or whatever sacred arts that they're destined to work with. But before becoming that magician or healer, to go within, to heal yourself, and at least establish some sort of strength before you can move forward. And that's important, because
yeah, you're going to fucking need that strength going through the process. You know, spirits of antagonism and dissension have tried to come between us from time to time.
Yeah.
And that's how real it fucking gets, because both of us on a higher fucking level, we know the difference. You know, all this kind of stuff happens, these hostile spirits, that they want to come in and they want to fuck with everything. You got to know the difference, and people need to know what we're actually up against, because once you come on their fucking radar, a lot of fucked up shit can happen. It's just classic. You can even study the history of certain magicians that went into practice with specific spirits and got ripped and torn to fucking pieces. You think it's going to be fucking different now?
It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And, you know, we have all this technology, but the spiritual warfare is the same. It hasn't changed. What has happened in history is happening right now. And this is happening behind the scenes, and there are societies that have been running this for a very long time.
What are some of the things that you see to the actual warfare that's going on at the moment?
To me, what I see going on a global scale is that there is still this parasitic consciousness. In order for it to live, it needs humans to become the transmitters and transceivers to the parasitic consciousness for it to live on, for it to continue. However, I think that it knows that its time is coming to a close. And again, the only way for it to survive and to gather people's energies towards it. And of course, there's many different levels of parasitic entities. A lot of them are described in the text as well. They need their machine to keep on going. However, once again, with the access to information, with what you are doing with Black Earth Productions, this parasite is under threat. From a magician's point of view, be sovereign, come back to yourself, and know that you don't need to depend upon some sort of hierarchy that's above you, that's holding secrets from you. You have everything that you need to take your power back, to begin to study, to begin to put things into practical application, and the results will come, and more will be put forth, you know, publicly. And you know, it is about creating a good life here as well, man. Like, we have to be able to manifest. And Seth, as you know, like I've tried to run away from this. I've tried to, Bethra told me sincerity is your power. And once you're sincere with yourself, where you're at, your weaknesses as well as your strengths, there's room for expansion, there's room for growth. But we have to become self-honest with ourselves. We have to realize where we're at and where we need to be and how do we get there, and then just take the necessary steps and actions, because the work is individual. Nobody can do it for anybody else. It is your own alchemical process. You can have the navigation set forth, or you can have information presented to you, but again, it comes back to you and what you're doing about your own life and where you're taking things. And oftentimes fear is one of the things that keeps us back, talking from experience. So just got to keep at it, got to keep working, got to keep the initiations going. Just, yeah, man, that's all I can really say to sum that up, you know?
Yeah, and people are going to have to go through a very real initiation if they want the real. They're going to have to get a passion for this sort of thing, man. and make sure that their physical existence is putting them in the position to be able to do this work, because you can't do it when you're in survival mode. If you're in survival mode, good luck being controlled by that slave state of mind. Everything I do in practice, I take back to the first cosmic law. It's all about your state of mind. This is a fucking fact. The Dark Ones know that, and I'm going to keep fucking driving it. This is why they do mind control, because they know it's all about your state of mind.
Yeah.
And if all is mind, if everything in the universe is a mental projection, and you come into alignment with eternity, you're going to be able to navigate and find your way back to yourself, back to being in alignment with your destiny, back to being sovereign. And it's not so much about the spirits once this actually happens. Because the true guides, they're guides for a reason. They're guides there to show you something temporarily. And then you're on down the path. And see, a lot of the guides that I had, they're not around anymore. Not even Raziel. I mean, it's not to say that I couldn't have interface with Raziel. But once Raziel revealed to me what it did, that's when things went to the next level, man. And as far as what's been revealed to me, my name, like who I am, going back to all of that, all of this stuff that is laid out, what we have been talking about, man, this is protocol teaching. And it absolutely confirms what I know is unfolding with what's being developed. And Nikolai, I want you part of the inner circle to the specific grid works of consciousness, all of us being connected to different ones. You could potentially pull them into alignment with what is unfolding. They're coming into hearing you talk about your experience and the things that you're sharing in context. I know for a fact that true benevolence exists when it comes to the 7 planetary gatekeepers.
I've worked with, numerous different entities, spirits, especially when I started, and their nature is very inspirational, and I've never had any issues with them. It's important, once again, to have that foundation built, because they respect that. They respect that when you are in connection. They respect when you are becoming a powerful magician, because to them, that's important. They don't want you to be reliant on them. They want you to first, again, set the foundation. And then when you're doing different magic and you're wanting to create medicines or different alchemical talismans or spirit pots or whatever, that's other magical work that you can undergo. That's part of the work, creating something.
Yes, that's absolutely true. It goes much further beyond the ideas of these concepts, but when you actually are able to apply them to your existence in every which way, that's when the real magic starts to happen. I'm going to go ahead and take a break here. This is SETHIKUS, BOZA, Black Earth Productions. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break, everybody. This is SETHIKUS BOZA. I'm here with my very close friend Nikolai Jones, who has joined me for this segment, getting into the 9 tomes of Magick and a whole lot of other things. So go ahead and pick up, Nikolai, where we left off before the break.
I think the medium secrets in the Arbitel does actually get into physical alchemy. So actually dealing with metals and understanding that art.
Yeah.
I think that the lesser 7 or however it's secrets, the lesser secrets are really about your mundane life. So how your career and getting that stabilized, but they are only there, not only as guides, but also they are here to help to influence with the divine magician, because the Arbitel does say that if you are a black magician, they're not going to appear to you because they're not going to want to deal with you.
Right.
This is nowhere from an elitist standpoint. It is simply about vibrational correspondence, what your mind gives off, the energy, the vibe that you give off. How can people even ask the right questions to the spirits if their minds aren't even right? Are they going to be even interested to know about the mysteries of the universe? Are they going to want to know about the secrets of nature? No, they're not going to want to know about that. And that's why black magician, they would rather go to lesser forces and deal with them, because that's the vibrational attunement. It doesn't have to be that way. And once again, everyone needs to discover their own system, their own mechanics, and then run with that and just work hard at it and become, once again, a force to be reckoned with in this world. And this is what we're about. We're about encouragement, getting other people to get into their own individual power and then to give back, to stand strong and to know the truth. And once again, being in control of your own mind, because what the black magicians don't want, they don't want you to be stable in your mind or your emotions. They don't want you to be on the frequency of true power and connection with the higher force. That's another topic that we can get into. To me, it's all pretty clear. It's all pretty clear, you guys. So, yeah.
One thing I want to say about cosmic law in response to that is that cosmic law is operating in all universes and all worlds of consciousness. No being, nothing that exists gets away from cosmic law. Mm-hmm. And if you're not the master of that, and if you're not in alignment with eternity, I mean, fuck, dude, this shit that we have been in, it's been going on for far too long. And, I want you to touch upon a little bit more when it comes to the 7 planetary gatekeepers. Who are they? What do they actually represent? We've talked about Bathor a little bit, but I want you to go through each one and give a short summary of what is actually going on here in context to planetary magic.
Okay. There's an interesting concept when it comes to the planetary spheres and Dharma, or whatever you want to call it. Once again, the Olympic spirits, they inhabit the stars, but what we were talking about consciousness.
That's what the planetary spheres are. They are stargates of consciousness.
Right. Now, above them, it goes to the highest force that there is. Once again, in Gateway through Light and Shadow, they're seen as humans that are merged with the essence of who stands before them. So at a moment of high intensity, and remember, alchemy happens at moments of high intensity for something to actually shift and happen. So there was this metaphysical reaction that occurred between the human soul and consciousness that had merged with the being. That human was then an Olympic spirit. So it has to do with alchemy and, bestowing 700 years of life and what that actually means. And what they've revealed is that that's only given to so select few individuals in this world, because their vibrations, their life is necessary to the planet, but usually they're very distant from our ordinary society. There's just so many secrets to still uncover with this. My major focus with the Arbitel is 2 things. One, it's gaining control of the mind, using these principles as a form of navigation. And secondly, it's the practicality of ritual with the Olympics, and then creating talismans or helping attune myself to planetary initiations that can further help my progress, with my own genetics and my own mechanics.
Yeah.
As I said, they understand the human mind very well, and they're very unique. The Arbitel is original, meaning there was nothing before this,
Right.
They're original.
That's why I wanted to get into it with you, man, because it's taking things back into trajectory. And so Share with everyone, though, their names and what their position actually is in context to planetary magic.
Okay, so we'll start with Monday. Monday is the day of the moon, Luna, and that has to do with the spirit full. Do you want me to describe some of the qualities of each spirit?
Yes, absolutely.
When it comes to my own discovery, Olympic spirit of the moon would be silver, right? It would be understanding how to work with water as well, how to work with emotions, how to navigate emotions. And Full is really big about navigating the astral world and not abusing it. Then we have Phallic, the sphere of Mars, which is Tuesday, and he governs warfare, the astral warfare, which he can actually teach how to navigate that process as well. Then we have Wednesday, Mercury, so Ophiel. He teaches how to be an excellent communicator, how to understand certain secrets or mysteries that are beyond human comprehension. Once again, as I said, they can understand the human mind very well, so they can begin to teach you in ways that it is not ordinary. And this comes through visions, through dreams, through all sorts of, very vivid experiences that are intense. Then we have Thursday, that's Jupiter, that is associated with Bethor. Bethor is a great spirit of abundance, of expansion. He also has the ability to give a practitioner the ability to heal others by gaining control of aerial spirits. What I'm giving you guys is just a very limited perspective on what they're capable of doing. There's many mysteries with each Olympic spirit. Then there is Friday. That's the day of Venus. That's Hagith. She is very powerful when it comes to understanding love and the mechanics of love. I was closed up in my heart center for a very long time after all that shit went down, man. With that Olympic spirit, I was able to clear the astral blockages in the consciousness of Venus to then open up and heal and then progress on my path. So we can already begin to see how powerful the Olympics are when it comes to clearing blockages that we might have. So it's a healing modality in itself, which, believe me, in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be even bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, on a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn, you've got Aratron. He's very alchemical, turning treasures to stone and stone to treasures. This is huge when it comes to the mind, when it comes to changing certain ways that you think, and also ending things in your life. It's about ending things, about beginning things as well. And once again, there's so many implications that go with each sphere. Then you've got Sunday, day of the sun, Sol. Ok is the sun, and he can give very good medicines. He can give very good insight whenever you're stuck in life and when you need to gain deeper clarity. As when you shine a spotlight upon the subconscious, the sun upon the moon, you begin to reveal treasures and secrets that are in your own mind, which is very interesting. As I said, their mysteries are massive, and there's still so much to unfold and to investigate. When it talks about healing any sort of illness within 7 days, that to me is very interesting. And also the alchemy aspect to it as well, dealing with mundane affairs when you're working with these spirits, is everything that we've been speaking about tonight. So
one of the most powerful things about all of this is this goes back to the foundation of the blue flame healing arts and occult science. In context of planetary high magic, what I term the solar spiral, and the art and science of astropsychology. We all have a unique blueprint. Unless we know what we have to work with, we're not going to know how to navigate these things, okay? Because the way you would relate to these archetypes is not the same way I would relate to them. And that's to get away from this hive mind shit. These cults pulled into one modality, and that's all fucking agendas, man. Because everything in context that we're talking about, it does come back to a personal gnosis. It does come back to a personal modality and system of magic that you are meant to develop as the magician. How many magicians throughout the eons have written their grimoires? This all goes back to their personal experience. And that's why I don't necessarily agree with doing a ritual that somebody else made, depending on what it was. But, getting into the art and science and practice of all this, it's all about developing your own rituals, man, and knowing how to relate to these things yourself. I think the way that Bethor works with you would potentially not be the same way that it works with me.
This is interesting because what the Arbitel explains magic to be. Okay, this is very interesting actually. So each of us have our own individual blueprint. We all carry different frequencies. We all have different planetary aspects affecting psychology, right? The being in itself would be, in my perspective, objective in its own nature, in its own frequencies and its own vibrations and what it actually gives off. You might experience different aspects of it depending on the magical operations you wish to go about with it. So how we go about this be different in the way that we receive the initiations. Initiations might begin from a completely different planetary sphere for some of us. Some of us might be like, hey, you know what? I have a lack of drive and discipline in my life, so I need to work with Phaleg, you know, the governor of consciousness of Mars.
Need some fucking Mars, goddammit. And see, Mars is one of my ruling planets, man.
Right.
I got Mars on fucking overdrive. Now that it's gone direct, man, I'm feeling that fire of fucking Mars again, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently created a Mars talisman, and part of the purpose, you know, with the talisman was not only spiritual protection and warfare when we might need to correct certain vibrations to balance ourselves out. Let's say, you know, we're lacking in a certain area. We can then, as magicians, create talismans to balance that out. But honestly, when it comes to talismans, the greatest thing I say to people is to meditate with them in your rituals, because that is a pinpoint to that realm of consciousness, and you need to access it to set your intention to heal that part of yourself. And I mean, the talisman might, you know, induce healing in of itself, but for the deeper work of the magician, it's riding into that energy, into that frequency, and then dealing with that realm, dealing with that reality, and then coming back into physical normal consciousness, waking reality, and then actually changing things. And basically everything to do with the Arbitel is healing. First, you know, establish the foundation as a mystic, then work with the spheres of consciousness to heal, to progress yourself, make effect in your actual reality. And this is what you've been teaching is, you know, heal yourself first, then get into occult sciences. And this is something that confirms everything to me as well.
Listen though, man, again, this is everything I've been tracking on without even reading. That's the difference.
And that's powerful.
This is confirmation to what is unfolding.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said earlier, when I had asked Bethor to teach me more magic, he refused because he explained that to understand the deeper science, you have to come back to create a source in your focus, in your
crazy,
attention, right? That's what he told me. And I've done a lot of work with Bethor, man. Like I've created spirit power.
Well, fucking hails to Bethor, man.
Yeah. and then the Archangel of Saturn, Cassiel, he's got a very dense energy when you work with him. And he told me the same thing, man, what Bethor told me. He told me the same thing.
Yeah, that's another one of my ruling planets is Saturn, dude. Mars and Saturn, my friends.
Again, you know, the Creator's unfolding story for our creation, every being must evolve. And this is something that you're talking about as well. Everything must evolve, right? And we need to move in alignment with that. And that's what these spirits are doing as well. Because for us to even do greater magic, to us to be able to, you know, invent greater technology that actually benefits humanity, you know, and not takes its essence away, we need to evolve and come into alignment. Because this is about creation. Again, this is what they've taught me, man, is that everything is unfolding the way that it should be when you're in direct connection with the Creator. And if you want to take yourself out of that, that is spiritual suicide, man. And that's something people aren't aware of. You're basically saying no to your soul. You're basically putting your true identity and your true purpose away because you think that you have an identity based on whatever, right? It's like you got to know yourself. You got to come back to your own individual connection and then allow things to pour forth. And this is something that they've been stressing to me when it comes to learning more. They actually said to me, Nick, you have all the magic, you know, you need. You have all the knowledge, but now start to integrate, start to work with the higher force, and we will reveal more to you because, again, they are linked up to create a source. Everything has a timing and a place that occurs with all of this. and that we cannot depend on no angel or no God to give us true power.
Right.
It is between us and how we navigate and work with these forces. You know, the first rule of the Arbiter is consult the Creator in all things and don't do anything without the Creator's counsel. That is your own individual gnosis. That is what you're connected to. And then go forth. And to me, magic is fucking incredible, man. I love creating talismans. I love creating links to spheres of consciousness and actually being like affecting reality. I love it. But the greater work is healing and remembrance and activating your own, you know, genetics and coming to greater insights and to greater power. Because for us to become truly great, we must heal and come into natural alignment. And the closer and the more focused we are in our intent to do that, the greater we become. And that's something Bethor has taught me.
Absolutely fucking brilliant, man. You had some things that you wanted to ask. I think you wanted me to get into as well, man. So
yes.
Feel free to ask any question.
I want to start with this. The power of the voice. Now, you were a vocalist for a very long time, right?
Yes,
so you understand the deeper implications to the importance of having a strong voice in magic and in anything. Could you delve deeper into that and the importance of having a strong voice in magic and what it means to you? Do you feel that you invoke a certain power or energy when you use your voice? What are the metaphysical mechanics that you have discovered with this?
The metaphysical mechanics of the power of the voice. Okay, man. Voice is everything when it comes to evocation and setting forth intention, declaring. When you speak forth, when you evoke, you are literally putting into the reality field an encryption. If you just go out in the public and listen to the bullshit, literally giving energy over to create whatever it is. Okay? This is why I don't like gossip. If you got an issue with somebody, go talk to them. Don't talk to me about that shit. I don't want to be pulled into that fucking encryption, which is a personal issue. And you know, that their energy's obviously being manipulated in context to people being keyed into the antagonistic core. This is what we're fucking dealing with. So becoming a master of speech is very important as a magician. And going back to what I was talking about, making your own rituals, making your own evocations is something I think the magician that works with a lot of these old systems, and when I say old, I don't mean the original, because the original is everything to do with the ancient future. I'm talking about these old systems that are keying people into the lower astral grid works, to which the first veil of the lower astral is dark sorcery. Okay, what are you encrypting? What are you setting forth as intention? What do you want to see happen, right? And when you build up the energy within the fulcrum, I use fire letter codex to do this. I also do toning. You were talking about toning the vowels. I tone runes. Runes is a major part of my personal practice. Isn't anything I'm doing public, because the runes aren't to be fucked with. I've been working with Tiawas, which is Tyr. And there's a lot I could say about Tyr. Tyr, again, in other segments, like I've mentioned, is the god of war when it comes to the ancient shamanic tradition of my ancestors, getting into my blood codes again. And all of this is very, very real for me personally. This is subjective. There's the objective reality field. There's the objective expression of creation. And Tyr has revealed himself to me. One of the absolute most powerful, most benevolent, and wise archetypes that I have ever had interface with. The Sky Father of my ancestors. Sky Father, Mother Earth. And what Tyr represents is justice, victory, loyalty, honor, being in the position of influence, being rational about things, you know, being whole-brained, being a spearhead of consciousness and connection to the higher force itself, which Tyr also, along with all the gods and all of the goddesses, must acknowledge, being like a spear, because the symbol, the rune Tiawas, looks just like a spear. And the real meaning of Tiawas gets into the secrets of the fulcrum, when I talk about the art and science of the circle of the magician. Just this rune alone has taught me more than I can even put into words, let alone all of the other 23, which are also fire letter codex. And fire letter codex goes back to the original encryption before the distortion was set in place. And see, this is what we got to get back to in order to lay the original foundation before we can actually evolve and start to encrypt the new. Because we're running on all of these old systems like I was fucking talking about, ain't nothing ever gonna fucking change. This is why I speak about the things that I do, and I speak the way that I do, evoking with the power of the voice, with the power of Galdr. When the wizard speaks forth, we encrypt. But you must speak from the true core essence. And we are at the spearhead of evolution here in the microcosm of the fucking macro. And the macro is multidimensional level. It's not just our universe. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Galdr, this is when spell casting is done, right? Mm-hmm. Even when we write words, we are spelling. This is why you didn't speak in the temple. Mm-hmm. Because the power and the frequency of what was actually present, if you spoke something forth, it would fucking happen. And this is why also we need to master our speech, working with Mercury, working with Ophiel.
Right.
Now, in context to the grid works of the original universe, which our less progressive universe has been cut off from, in the original universe, if you had one thought or even an emotional charge with something, it would fucking manifest, man. And there's sorcerers out there doing very, very dark sorcery, like David Blaine, okay? These motherfuckers aren't doing parlor tricks. It's not sleight of hand. Literally fucking manipulating the molecular structure of the reality field, man. You know, and to actually show you an example of what I'm talking about, I want everyone to check out this clip now.
Think of any card in the deck. Great. Hold the deck. You're thinking of a card? Do I know what card you're thinking of? Your card just left the deck just now. Look through the deck, your card isn't there. Go ahead and look. Yeah, it's not there. You won't see it there. No, it's nowhere. Here's what we'll do. Harrison, do me a favor. Grab a piece of fruit for me, like one that we can open up. Yeah, grab a piece of fruit. Go ahead, whatever. And can we cut this? Can we take a knife and put it right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, can put it right here. Say your card out loud.
9 of hearts.
9 of hearts?
Yeah.
Can you turn this sideways?
Sideways?
Yeah, so I can cut right through it. Let me not hit your hand. Let's do, hold, yeah. See, inside. See how there's a card in the orange?
No way.
See how there's one card inside? Please remove it. Take it out. Go ahead, pull it out. Open it up, Harrison.
No, that's just crazy.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Whoa. So see now with this, it's very interesting, the number and the symbol that Harrison Ford chose, which was the 9 of hearts. Now, if anybody out there has been listening to anything we've been talking about, getting into the 9, getting into the heart, what that actually is. This is a prime example of what's being manipulated here. Thrown in our fucking faces to mesmerize and to hypnotize. And it's the inversion of Woad. When he said, whoa, that's Odin. And so when he evoked that, I could say on a higher level, Odin himself was saying, get the fuck out of my house. And see, that's one way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. And see, you can even go back and watch how Harrison Ford grabbed his heart center when he realized, whether it was conscious in his waking mind, there within the unconscious core essence, he knew shit wasn't fucking right. The magic that I personally practice, it's nothing to do with that. Like we got into, there's many different kinds of magic. It's not all just one thing. And to take it back to the original, we must become the masters of our true hardcore intelligence, which then puts us in alignment with the nine, which is the spindle of the energy force itself. This is what was being manipulated on an unconscious level by very ancient Atlantean encryptions that are riddled throughout the etheric body of David Blaine himself, which was confirmed by another initiate. So on it goes, everyone. What we're talking about here is, in fact, the fucking truth, let alone what is beyond all of these lower forms that are all designed to literally triangulate, pull you as an individual out of the fulcrum, out of the circle of your own connection, and manipulate the energy force thereof on an unconscious level.
Right.
Clear. Now, if people fall into this victim mentality and they fall into the idea that they're no good, or that they're not worth anything, that they don't deserve what their soul desire is screaming, then they're going to be evoking or declaring things that are going to poison their system on a molecular level, man.
I think it's very important to speak good to yourself as well as to encourage others with your words, and even like speak over water, right?
Yeah, speaking over water. Our physical bodies are about 60% water.
Right.
Our bodies, our physical bodies.
Exactly. And water can be charged through planetary vibrations simply by vibrating certain planetary names over the water. You got to be careful with that as well, but it just shows you the grand possibility that is available through the voice. And I know that this is pretty common in different, magical traditions.
And also coming at things like ritual with the voice of thunder. When I really get into it, I drop my tone and I speak from the well of Ur that's there within the heart center. That deep well that connects you to the primordial womb.
I'm going to reveal a secret on here, man. I'm going to just lay it down. If you want to become a strong magician with your voice, speak from your heart in ritual.
Yes.
That is fucking huge, man. This is something Bethra told me once again. When you're sincere and real and not just speaking things that you don't fucking believe, that changes everything.
Yep. You got to speak forth with some goddamn fucking conviction. This is how I am anyway, the way I speak, because I mean what the fuck I say when I say certain things. And you can tell the difference when someone's all up in their head and they're being pulled to the left or to the right in context to manipulation of our energy bodies, specifically the emotional body. A double-minded man cannot receive anything. It cannot declare anything. It cannot bring forth anything because it's not focused.
Yeah.
It's not focused with its intention. And see, with the power of the voice within the fulcrum, this is where you set forth your intention within the circle of the magician. The way that I practice the circle is not like how many people out there do. This was something I developed in context to what the higher force was telling me to do with it. And it fucking works. Yeah. When you create that cone of power and you get that energy going and you start to declare within the fulcrum, that's where you encrypt into the energy of the grid works of this reality field, man. After that is when you're meant to take action upon whatever it was. See, a lot of people, they want to run out and they're struggling in fucking life and they're having all this fucked up shit fucking happen. Take some time to pull back and recalibrate and really figure out, okay, what is my intention really?
Right.
Why am I doing what the fuck I'm doing?
Exactly.
Am I running on these fucking programs? Okay, what do I really fucking want to experience here that I'm actually supposed to do? And all of these arts and sciences get into being able to discover that, man. Why wouldn't people want to come into knowledge with this? And it's very unfortunate, but there are very few mystery schools in the earth, This is what I'm working to create again, and I don't care how big or small. Potential here for people to become the masters of themselves.
And really, off the fucking charts now. What you're teaching and what I'm about, there's no need for hierarchy. There's no need.
There's no agenda here.
Exactly. Like, take your destiny and go fulfill it. Go do what you're about and use your voice, use your heart and your emotion and your intent to go out there into the world and to speak truth with courage, with conviction, and especially when you're in ritual and in a very sacred environment where you are merging between worlds. Your voice, how is an angel going to respect you if you talk softly? Like, you have to be with conviction, with
base the spirit in confidence and sovereignty, knowing your connection to the higher force that's beyond the all. It's beyond the all of the mind.
It is.
If all is mind, then what I talk about in context to creator source is beyond that.
Yeah.
It just is. It's the isness of the all. Now, the reason why we've been caught in these fucking time cycles is because the social engineers have conditioned us to basically take on the karma of their agenda by consenting to it.
Right.
Thinking that this is how life is meant to be lived. They're afraid to speak for it. They're afraid to talk about anything that's being revealed to them because maybe they're going to get scrutinized by their fucking family members, or, you know, their friends are going to fucking reject them, and then they find themselves alone. Okay, fucking good.
Right, right.
Good. Fuck them. Because if you're not in alignment and this is happening and you run, like we both fucking know, our lives are going to go into fucking chaos, man.
Right. It's either spiritual suicide, that's what it really is, or it's reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your power, and then walking forth with conviction with who you are, what you're here to express, what you're here to do, and be fearless. Because if we are worried about fitting in with others or slapping our higher self in the face, we are going to live miserable lives, and we're going to get sick. We're going to age much more quickly because we're not in alignment with the truth, with our power. And this is another question that I wanted to get into was, what is the role of the shaman to you, man, at this time where we are in need of shamans, for healers to be out there and to be like, hey, this is the way, basically at the astral crossroads?
Well, in context to shamanism, there's a major difference when it comes to a magician and a shaman. Mm-hmm. I hail from a shamanic bloodline, man. This is why I know what I know. It's in my fucking blood. And the original position of the shamans among the wisdom councils, they were the teachers. They were the teachers, and it is also my position in context because of the activations that have been taking place. Now, see, there's a lot more that I'm going to be getting into after this segment. Mm-hmm. I've reached a certain peak. This is why I wanted you to come on, because you know me for a very long time. You knew me even before things started to unfold in the way that they have been.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've seen the progression, man. You've seen where I was before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in context to shamanism, it all goes back to the 9th tome. It goes back to the magic of the prophets. It goes back to the magic of the seers. And it goes back to the magic of the seeress. This, in context, is Seth. When it comes to the ancient tradition of my blood code ancestors, shamanic magic. Now, the 5th kind of magic, the 5th tome, this is the Galdr. And so the combination in context to the ancient tradition is in combination here. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the tomes, all of it is present. We're connected to fucking all of it. Okay. But again, how we're navigating these things is different. So the position of the shaman is basically the overseer of what's going on. Mm-hmm. Not being in the position wanting to dominate and control. This is what's happened with the dark priesthood. Okay. This is their position in context of what I'm talking about being manipulated. Mm-hmm. They are the overseers of their grid works. They are the overseers of what's going on. The original wisdom councils, the shamanic grail bloodline shamans, taking it back to the grail, the holy fucking grail, man, which is the planetary Templar. They were overseers, man. Okay. Now, when the cataclysms took place and when the betrayals took place, these shaman lines started to be wiped the fuck out. Because not only was the knowledge in, say, manuscripts burned and destroyed, when it comes to the real record, how we access the real records is within the blood and the bones. This is why the shamanic tradition of my ancestors, we use a lot of bones. We use the bones of animals. I have a goat skull staff. you know, getting into totems and nature spirits and the Alfar, like I was talking about, the original human template, going back to the first and second seeding, there were magicians as well. They were more involved with what was happening in society. The shamans, man, they lived up on like a fucking mountain and shit. They were like the hermits in the tarot. And the hermits in the tarot is a reflection of Odin. And Odin is the seer of seers, getting into the 9th tome. This prophetic magic, he sacrificed himself unto himself to attain his higher self, to attain that wisdom, and spied the runes out of Ganundagat. And so working with these tools and the things that have come to me in context, this has come to me through the activation of my blood codes. It didn't just come to me like reading about it. It just fucking happened, man.
Mm-hmm. All of this ended up happening after some really brutal awakening, some really brutal processes that you actually, you know, you had to go through.
Yeah, when I went through the real initiations, man, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I went mad. Like I talk about, this is why I give a warning. To come to this level, and again, like I was saying, I'm 100 steps ahead, man. I'm overseeing this. I'm observing. And I'm addressing what I need to address at the time I need to fucking address it. Because a lot of people that put themselves out there, they're all over the place, man. There's so many fucking things. When it comes to Black Earth Productions, it's very focused, and it's going to continue to be. When it comes to shamans, you're not a fucking shaman for real unless you are connected to the ancient bloodline itself. Going all the fucking way back to the beginning.
And here's a very interesting thing with that, is that the reason why your blood is so powerful, the ancestors, that the blood, the DNA, they have activated certain abilities that are then passed on to you through your blood. You got to remember that.
Yes.
You are awakening the next generation of shamanic abilities, right?
I share it with other people, but I don't expect anybody or everybody out there to necessarily be on what I'm on. But when it comes to magic, and when it comes to everything that's meant to unfold, every fucking person out there that is keyed into this needs to fucking know the difference, man. The wisdom councils need to be reinstated. Are you willing to be misunderstood? Are you willing to be rejected? Are you willing to be mocked? Are you willing to be fucking hated? Are you willing to have people want to fucking kill you? You know, to really walk this path, man, in context of shamanism, you can have fear of nothing. The minute you give it, everything that anybody has talked about out there, I fucking experienced it, man. Even experienced more beyond it that I can't even necessarily put into fucking words. Mm-hmm. You know, to break it down in just one conversation is fucking nearly impossible. I would have to write fucking volumes when it comes to my experiences. But a shaman is having interface all the fucking time. This is why the Seth shamans, man, when they go into fucking trance, they would have to literally let go and allow their eternal core essence to ride their vessel. This is when they would have vision, and they would be able to see. Mm-hmm. You know, the prophetic magic, you can see everything that's going on, all at the same fucking time. You can feel it. You can see it. You can sense it.
This easily links with the power of the voice as well, because the shaman knows how to get into trance, you know, via the drums or via the voice. And get into that specific state of consciousness where they are receiving visions and higher insight to what is actually going on, and then coming back to physical awareness and actually navigating this world. And
that's the difference, though, with the Galdr. Seth and Galdr are a combination. You can't have one without the other. If someone's just in a state trance all the time and you don't have the wisdom of the Galdr wizard, you're not going to have that interpretation. You're not going to even know what the fuck is going on. And so I had to develop that gift of the Galdr, you know, and I operate with both. I can go into both. And see, this is the whole orb of the earth, man. It's not just the earth, it's the entire fucking womb of the all. Earth is our fucking universe, man. It's the entire universe. Because again, like I was saying, until people remember that the heavens above are within us, getting into the second kind of magic, the macro to the micro, we're not going to fucking evolve. And we're not going to know what our true roots are, because these codes are lying dormant within our energy body. And that's why the true benevolence are talking about healing so much, because to get access to the true keys that we need to get access to be able to work with the different kinds of magic that we have, You're going to have to go through that process of initiation. It's not just going to be handed to you. The position of the shaman, it's been demonized as well.
Oh, yeah. It's understanding the chain of manifestation that comes with all of this, knowing, let's say from a magician's standpoint, how certain spheres, if you're changing things on those levels of reality, how that ends up filtering down back into the physical world. And there's many ways that reality can be influenced and affected on a planetary scale, but to balance that out and to filter some of that shit out, which is being bombarded. Problem is, with government technology, they can bombard places, locations, and use that technology to manipulate and to influence an overdose of specific vibrations that are causing issues, or a lack of vibrations that is causing these issues, you know. So
the thing about the dark priesthood, the dark shaman, they can only operate on a certain level, man, because of the fucking fact that they're not willing to go through the real process, man, to become the master of themselves or the master of their fucking destiny in alignment with eternity. They want to be in those positions of domination and control, and will do everything they fucking can to suck the life force out of every fucking living creature here on Earth. And that's what's happening. Again, this is why we also physically die, because in the beginning, humans, you know, we didn't die physically. If people want to go back to the story of Eden, okay, you're going to remain in fucking kindergarten. We came into this reality field to be way showers for those that are ready to graduate this motherfucker. I've been here, fucking done this shit, man. Now I could say who I really am. Doesn't really fucking matter who's doing the real work. Right. People that go around claiming that they're this person or they're the reincarnation of this fucking God or fucking angels. Stop it.
Exactly.
Are you doing the real work?
And nowadays, anybody could go online and say, hey, I'm a shaman or I'm a magician.
Exactly.
But they're not doing the work. They're not making any changes to their own lives. It's like, how are you making your own life?
Like Bathor, I'm pointing them back to themselves.
Exactly. The real threat is ignorance. It is not doing the shadow work. That is the threat. No. You know, it is accepting mediocrity. It is accepting what society has taught you to be, or them teaching you who you are, when really...
Dude, people need to be fucking crushed by Thor's hammer if they really want to fucking feel the raw power of the higher force. Consciousness, energy, frequency, and vibrational correspondence. And this is why symbolism, studying symbolism, is also so important, because everything that we're talking about here is symbolism. It's symbolism of how to explain the workings of consciousness, energy.
The beauty of human consciousness in of itself is that we can experience all initiations. We can experience all of them because they are a part of us. The beauty of it is that the human vessel is the holder of consciousness, and depending on what you're bringing down is really what you're bringing into this world, you know, as within, so without. And once you're bringing down that the higher consciousness, the higher power that you're connected with, everything begins to change. And it is a lonely path sometimes. It isn't easy. And I mean, like, man, you've been doing this for many, many years, and I'm just starting to really breaking certain chains to further pursue what I'm passionate about. And it isn't easy, and you know, there are other responsibilities and things, but I can't run away from this, because every time that I've tried, it's ended up badly.
It's fucking programming. It's the programming fucking with you, man. Everything that we experience is a certain sort of encryption. Now, it's our position to be able to change that encryption. There's a risk that you take when you actually come into alignment with your fucking destiny. And you will be faced with your greatest fears standing in the way of that fucking gate.
It is a path of the courageous warrior.
And that's getting into planetary high magic. That's the North Node. That's your North Star, man. That's the direction you got to go. Also looking at the aspect of the house placement as well. All of the fragments of consciousness, they still exist, but they've been scattered, man. Like a lot of us have been too here in this reality field. It's not like I can go down the street and we can hang out. We're in different continents across the fucking world having this conversation. Right. And we've been having these conversations for a long time. But both you and I have been able to cause effect here in this reality field, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking about with the changes that are fucking happening, dude. we're doing shit on levels that I don't think we can fully wrap our little tiny brains around. But you can feel it, you know it, you sense it. Yeah. And so the expansion of consciousness, and we are encrypting this, man. We are encrypting these teachings. We are sharing them with other fucking people. We are being the cause point. Yeah, it's all about taking things back to the original, man. Back to a time where we were not being controlled by these systems of domination, where we actually were sovereign and knew the fucking difference and knew what we were connected to and knew how to navigate and knew how to manifest. You know, we can pull this fucking shit together. Again, going back to the division that took place among the brotherhoods, this is something that we're all going to have to heal. Every magician out there is going to have to heal this shit.
Oh, yeah. This isn't about enslavement. This is about liberation of your mind, of adolescence, and then going out there and doing what you're here to do. And getting into the subject of, you know, magical orders and everything like that. The problem that I have at this current time is that we have so much access to information that we can begin studying, learning, but we don't need to be under some sort of hierarchy of enslavement. I just see it so often where people slap their own higher selves in the face, their own true destiny. We are meant to empower and inspire one another because, you know, we're all doing different work, and then bringing these teachings out and then giving people access to this. And it's like, hey, this is in your hands. Now use it in the way that is true. Use it in the way that is pure, and find yourself, and then reclaim your power, and then go out there and inspire other people to do the same thing. And this is what it's about. It's not about keeping people in the unknown, or even with me. Like if I'm holding certain things back, it's not from an elitist standpoint. It's from a standpoint that, hey, if people have access to certain magic, they're going to harm people. And the Arbiter speaks of the highest secrets that are revealed to you are not meant to be spoken because they are for you, right? Because you were talking about, you know, being connected to that which is beyond. Hold what is sacred close to your heart, and be careful to not throw pearls to swine. That's greatly important as well.
That's one of the maxims of the wisdom councils. You don't just share these things with anybody. And it's not to keep it occult. It's just the fucking fact that these things will forever be veiled from those that don't go through the true process of initiation. This is why I do one-on-one mentorship now. And there are students that I've had to kick the fuck out of the fucking doors because they weren't ready. I'm being held accountable, man. I can't just do whatever the fuck I want like a lot of people do. And see, this is an abuse of free will. Yes, we've been given the gift of free will, but are we mastering it? Are we mastering free will? Are we mastering our intention? Is it in alignment with truth? And see, a lot of people out there, they are promoting spiritual escapism instead of spiritual self-mastery. We did not come here and incarnate into this reality field to escape. We came here to master and change and encrypt something that is going to be a benefit for mankind in the generations to come. Whether we see the fullness of it now, I don't give a fucking shit. What we are talking about right now is going to resound throughout eternity, man.
Powerful. Yeah.
And see, I'm evoking this right now.
The doors to this are open to everybody. Everybody can take that commitment to themselves and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. Mars energy within you, that drive, that discipline.
That's where it's coming from.
Right. So you want to know the high mysteries, then start doing the work.
Here's the real secret with that. If you actually do this, you're going to have interface anyway. It's inevitable. Don't worry about the spirits. Trust me, they're fucking there. Once you start in, you're going to have fucking interface with more than I can even say. It's a question of going back to what you were talking about, though. Are you sovereign? Do you see yourself as whole? Do you see yourself as connected to the higher force, to eternity? If you don't, then don't proceed until you do. Because once you start having interface, you know, in context to the shadow and everything that's happening on the lower astral, man, this is the dumping ground of every being that's ever existed, man. You know, where all the warfare is, where all the fucking wounds, the core wound of humanity as well. Dude, this has never been healed, man. This has never been fulfilled in a sense. And we have a chance to do something that's never been done before. But You have to know thyself. You're not going to know the universe, what the gods and goddesses really are, or what creator source actually is until this happens. I would like you to share a little bit more of what you're actually doing with your practice, services, and the things that you were doing in context to all this, man.
Awesome. So, as I said before, there's two practical aspects with the Arbitel. One, which we've been speaking about on this segment, right? Know thyself. The second aspect of it, to me, is working one-on-one with the Olympic spirit, right, of a specific planet. When I'm doing that, there's initiations that happen, on a planetary scale. And not only that, but I also go into creating, again, as I've mentioned, talisman with many different planets for protection, for prosperity, for abundance, for insight, and many different reasons. And the practicality to that is learning the mysteries for themselves and then reflecting that back into my practice and, creating different things and learning. And, it's a journey, it's not an overnight process. It's the great work, and the great work for the magician never truly ends. But aside from that, my daily practices, if it's not working with the Arbitel, it's meditation. Learn how to meditate, learn how to breathe properly, right? Learn how to gain control of your mind, as we've been speaking about, and your natural state of the mind, right? Without having interface with spirits and other entities, what does your natural state of mind feel like? And as you go on to deeper levels, you will heal and you'll be more self-aware than you ever have been. The other practice that I'm involved with, which we mentioned in this segment, is again chanting, right? Working with the 7 vowels. I found that they are very natural and very resonant with producing a psychic ability, psychic sight, inducing deeper dreams, and also increasing your ability to work and communicate. And this is greatly important as a magician, because when you're making talismans, for example, insight on how to do that, on how to make it more powerful, or how to go about certain tasks. And that's something the shaman does as well. The shaman works with not only his own ancestors, the spirits, and they reveal certain things to the shaman, as well as his or her own gnosis in the process when it comes to connecting with the force. So, that's what I'm involved with, and it's not, as I said, it's not an overnight thing. It's daily commitment. I do different work with clients, and I continue to learn. I continue to expand. And one thing that I wanted to mention earlier is that don't be afraid to fail, right? But pick yourself back up. Go out there and learn, right? Trial and error is going to be part of the process. Right. But what's going to keep you moving forward is your intention. It's going to keep your vision for yourself, the knowledge that you have about yourself, that your life has greater meaning than what you've been told to believe. So keep going, you guys. I mean, that's all that I can suggest from my end.
The only way we truly fail is if we quit. So don't quit. Look how far we've come, my friends. Look how far things have come since even before we started communicating with one another, man.
Yeah.
Real quick, go ahead and share with us your website.
So you can find me at arbitelexplorations.com. And, if you have any questions, feel free to message me or message Seth, and we'll get back to you.
Awesome, man. It's been a brilliant conversation. And I hope to continue to do this more with you, man. And right now, things are coming full circle so that things can start going to the next level. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. If there's anybody out there that is seeking one-on-one mentorship when it comes to initiation into the occult, when it comes to initiation into literally everything that me and Nikolai just got into, then please check out our website at blackearthproductions.com. Everything there on our services page is meant for those that are ready to come into this level of knowledge and start to become the masters of themselves and the masters of their destiny here in Midgard, in this reality field. If this is the first time anyone has heard a segment on Black Earth Productions, I'm going to encourage you to go check out other segments that have been uploaded. Things continue to be very successful because of the fact that things are being pulled into alignment in trajectory with where things are going being directed by the higher force, which continues to confirm again and again what is meant to unfold. And once again, Nikolai, let's keep this the fuck going, man. And again, it was great talking to you.
Likewise, brother. It was awesome speaking on here and getting into these sciences. Talk to you later.
All right, have a good rest of your day. We're definitely going to be talking again soon. So to close things out at the moment with everything, be empowered, be encouraged. This is SETHIKUS BOZA, Black Earth Productions. More is going to continue to come soon.